that which is universal, that which is everywhere present, is actually present in us. It echoes the statement of the first two principles of unity. The first one is, there's only one presence, one power in my life and in the universe, very bold statement, God the good. Followed by the second one, which is, I am. And this I am is our direct connection with that one presence, one power. Because when brought down to being inside a human being, our best way of saying it is, I am. Not like I am something or I am this or that, although that is a powerful way to use it. But I am, the basis of you is the awareness, the consciousness that is underneath all that you experience. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Jay's on vacation. He'll be back. And it's so great to have someone who can step right in and do it. So thank you. Today's a beautiful day. I got up at 8:20 to walk outside, and as I went outside, I noticed that the sky was clearer blue than it's been in a long time. The temperature was cool enough that I could go, oh, there is a God. And it was so pretty, it was just spectacular. And one of the things I would like us to do, one of the things I think is true as a symbol, that can be a symbol for our own minds, how it goes from dark and, hot and dense to light and clear. And the process we've been going through over the last few months is to come to recognize your own sense of awareness, that own sense of awareness or consciousness that is the core of who you are, that we have been pushing into those spaces of awareness or consciousness in such a way that we will come to know that the very consciousness that has caused all of existence to be created is still alive and well inside us, that which is universal, that which is everywhere present, is actually present in us. It echoes the statement of the first two principles of unity. The first one is, there's only one presence, one power in my life and in the universe, very bold statement, God the good. Followed by the second one, which is, I am. And this I am is our direct connection with that one presence, one power. Because when brought down to being inside a human being, our best way of saying it is, I am. Not like I am something or I am this or that, although that is a powerful way to use it. But I am, the basis of you is the awareness, the consciousness that is underneath all that you experience. And I'm going to try to relate that to Jesus' I am statements in the New Testament. So let's assume that Jesus knew what he was doing. What has not been assumed in most of the time that since Jesus is that you could know what you're doing as well. But that there was only one way to treat Jesus, and that was as the perfect one of which you are not, of the one that was the child of God, of which you need his help to get somewhere. Now, I read a book recently called Finders. Finders meaning those who've been seeking find. And the author of the book teaches at Stanford, so he's an academic guy. But he said, what happened for my sister and my mother is they found Jesus and it worked for them. They just believed and they transcended this normal state of consciousness where there are troubles that seem to just pervade your life to a state of well-being which their life. He said, for me and for my father, it didn't work. I didn't find that satisfactory. It didn't bring me into a deep state of grace by simply believing I needed another way. So he one of the things he did was research how people come to experience a profound sense of well-being. And what he found was there are many paths to it, but largely it comes to this realization that you are awareness itself underneath what you have called yourself. And if you turn your awareness from looking outward to looking inward, at some point what will happen is this general sense of well-being will begin to be your baseline experience. That when you recognize you are awareness, not just this flesh and history, when you recognize that, then the general sense of well-being grows, and the more you spend time with that, the deeper it becomes. And basically that comes from this old tradition that comes out of India to ask the question, who am I? In meditation. I don't mean like to ask, who am I in normal mental states, because what you'll get is, I am a person, I live here, I'm a doctor, I'm a lawyer, I'm an Indian chief, whatever it is. You'll have that as your answer, but when you sit in meditation and quiet the mind, the part of you that is underneath the mind in normal states, that is underneath that is this I am presence, this awareness, this consciousness. That is what, when you rest in that, what happens is, what develops is an underlying sense of well-being, because you're tapping into that universal, that God presence, that oneness, one presence, one power. You're tapping into that, and the characteristics of the one presence, one power is it has nothing to be afraid of. So it's, and nothing that it has to prove, so that you get a sense of peace. And it is connected to everything, so it has a sense of love, and it's just basic, everything's all right, so it has a sense of joy. That's a way of getting to it. Getting to it by way of asking the question, who am I, and dropping into it in a state of quiet mind. So that which is underneath the active mind, the monkey mind that you meet when you first do meditation, what's underneath that is this awareness which is seeing through you all the time, and has been ever since your birth. It's been seeing through you. It is not something fantastic like you have to achieve the equivalent of the Olympics in spirituality to get there. It's always in you, as you. It's just turning your attention toward it. And as you turn your attention toward it and rest in it longer, the more you reach a state of well-being. And there are many levels of states of well-being and awareness at that level. But if you just reach stage 1, you're feeling pretty good, right? That's the way the book goes. Now, on the other hand, I was asking myself today, what did Jesus do to be Jesus? Right? What was his spiritual practice? And one of the things, it kind of dawned on me that he was an outlier. Do you know what I mean? Like Einstein was an outlier, and Mozart was an outlier, and LeBron James is an outlier. You know, if it was for me to play basketball like LeBron James, it's just not going to happen. Nor music like Mozart. Nor I probably won't come up with the general theory of relativity either. Those are unlikely things that will happen, but I can I can become educated, I can learn a skill of playing the piano, and I could perhaps learn to hit a free throw, right? So if you don't experience the same extreme experience of the I amness that Jesus did, or the powers that come from living as that, as Jesus did, to heal, to do, well, just to be remembered for 2,000 years. Let's say you don't reach that. The practice can still be the same. And so I asked ChatGPT, what was Jesus' practices? Doesn't it know everything? And it said this most mundane stuff you could imagine, which is not actually false, but it didn't really tap into what I was looking for. It said, you know, he prayed alone. He went out in the desert and spent 40 days. He fasted. He fell down on the ground when he was really intensely on it. He was willing to pray during a conversation. They just had a lot of things that seemed very, very much like there are a lot of people doing that, and I don't see getting anywhere in particular toward this awakening to their I am presence. They might be having a sense of peace or help from that, but I'm looking for how did he become Jesus? Do you know what I mean? Jesus is unusual. And though I know he's an outlier, I hope to find something that would get me to the same place as Jesus, or in that direction. And so one of the things that's curious about the Gospels, they progressively have more stories of Jesus saying the words I am as history went by. And so that was actually a theological development, I believe, as the Gospel of Mark was the first written, and the last written was John. And John packs in all the I am statements that Jesus says. The active ones are really come right after he does a miracle of some sort. I'm going to read you those so we can get through them in a hurry. But it is kind of a nice literary device for Jesus to do a miracle and then have an I am statement afterwards. So, I am the bread of life, and this is right after he feeds the 5,000, right? I am the resurrection and his life is actually something he did before he was resurrected. Kind of hard to do it. He keeps, this is the wrong page, so this is hard for me to do that. Let me see if this one has it. Let's just forget that. What Jesus usually says is something that echoes his miracle, right? He says, I am the way, or I am the truth, or I am the light, that sort of thing. That's Jesus' echoing in the text. It's echoing the miracle he just did. So he heals someone and he says, I am the light, or he brings himself to feed the 5,000, which is pretty impressive if you think about it. And he says, I am the bread, I provide. When he's saying that, as a literary device, it's confirming Jesus' identity. But it's also, I think, a hint toward how we become more like him. That we use the I am statement as a declarative, predictive, creative statement. Now, we have been working a lot with who am I? Yin and yang, that's the yin part. Yin, who am I? The receptive state, the one who's the witness, the one who's watching, the one who's always been aware, the one who's currently aware as you. And you can find it as you go into that question, who am I? And what emerges out of that is this, oh, I am that. I am that awareness. And it had been hidden just behind my busy mind. I hadn't seen it, but it was always back there. It actually animates the busy mind. I am. Oh, that's me. Ah, so. And that, what struck me was that was the passive way of asking this question or realizing who you are. Who am I is the passive way, right? The passive, the yin way, not passive exactly, but the yin way, the feminine, the receptive, the soft and gentle, right? That is, I am. Ah, that's me. Ah, Eckhart Tolle, you ever seen him? Eckhart Tolle is the perfect example. He's always whispering, you know. He's got that He's like that baby look, you know? Wow. He's deep into that. And yet, when we read the Gospels, we really don't see Jesus doing that. What we see with Jesus is taking the yang aspect of that, the part that says, I am. And then it's powerful, it's movement, it's creative, it's making the world change right in front of him. I am the way. I am the truth. He's like punching it out, wouldn't you say? Versus I am. And those are the two sides of the same experience, because he's taking that which is universal, which is the one presence, one power, and claiming it for himself. He's using the second principle of unity, I am. It is that I am, and I declare a thing, and I make it so. Not because his little mind said that, and not because his ego said that, but when he's in touch with the divine presence within him, and he declares a thing, and so it is. I was once at Muktananda's ashram, and they told a story on him, that he just would say a thing, and it would happen. Now, it may not happen that moment, but it would happen. And then the disciple would remember, oh, he told me da, 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 and it happened. I believe when you are in touch with the presence of who you really are, when you declare, and you're speaking from there, when you declare a thing, it is so. It has power, it has presence. But Jesus would also sometimes say it without a predicate, not I am this or I am that. And this is when it seems to me to be its most potent. He says simply, I am. Now in the English translations in the Bible, they take the Greek word, two words actually, ego, eimi, and they make it I am he, because we are not really comfortable with the idea of just leaving I am out there. We need a predicate. We're so used to a predicate. And when you think that this is not a spiritual statement, but a declarative statement by a unique person, it would be smart for him to say, I am he. But if he was trying to give you the message of how to be in such a way that things change, he simply says, I am. So he's walking on water, something I've been dying to do. He's walking on water, and his disciples see him, and they kind of freak out. And he goes, ego eimi, I am, fear not. Not I am he, I am. The presence of God is speaking. But it's the same presence in each one of us, the I am. And resting and exploring and then pronouncing your truth is the practice, I think, that allowed Jesus to be who he was. That he was in the presence, as the presence. He knew it well enough to say a declarative statement, simply, I am. And it was strong enough by itself. It needed no predicate. Later on, Jesus is going to be arrested. It's just before his crucifixion. It's the night before. He's out with his guys, and arresting people say, "We're looking for Jesus," and he goes, "Ego eimi," and they all fall down. All the soldiers fall down. The presence that we become when we slip out of this small sense of self and move into the great sense of self is dramatically different than just being little old you. Does this make sense? That if you shift your identity from that which has been on the surface, that you were taught as a child and you have lived out since then, you know, you come into this world like Eckhart Tolle. And gradually you become a person. Just a person. Just a person with limitations, with a small sense of self, with the tendency to say that I end at my skin, that I can only think and be so much, that I am limited, fragile, hungry, thirsty, a being dedicated to the body. When you leave that and return to your original nature, as an adult, it's not just this, it's you have power and authority. And I believe that's what distinguishes the Eastern and the Western way of doing this exploration. In the East, it's passive, awaken via the question. And in the West, it's active. Declare from the deepest part of yourself a truth and make it so. And I believe that explains also why in the East, Ramana Maharshi is the great one about finding yourself through the passive questions of who am I, sinking down deeper into it. And it's not altogether passive, I must say. The very active practice of trying to get to the deepest part of yourself is not actually passive, but it's the yin passive, yin way of doing it. And then on the active side, it is the I am declarative side, until it becomes so powerful that you don't even have to declare a thing, you just are. And then the world changes when you are there. You don't have to make it so. It becomes so. And you don't have to try to be something. You are something. You don't have to be limited by your past understandings of who you were as a little person. You become the presence. And in that, you receive the great gift of grace, or peace, love, and happiness. Wouldn't that be great? So I invite you to contemplate this. In my recent experience has been that as I've been trying to do this who am I experience and looking at the one who's looking, it gets easier the longer you do it. And the more you do it, the more the world is agreeable to you saying, I am. Well, maybe not the world. Your being is willing to be that. To be walking around as the I am presence. I don't know if any of us will get to be Jesus. Just as I don't know any of us is going to be Mozart. But we can touch the hem of the garment. So I invite you to practice. Exploring in your own mind, in your own prayer, in your own meditation, the experience of I am, either in the receptive state or in the active state. For I think this might be one of the secrets why Jesus was who he was. Let us pray. Let's just sit for a moment in silence. Just sit and let us be still, really still. Really still. And in this silence, as you get more still, there may be a question you want to ask yourself. Who's having the experience of this right now? Whatever you're experiencing, ask who's having that experience. Of course, the obvious answer will be I am. And now move your attention toward that I am and see if you can feel into the I am. In the Old Testament, God says at the burning bush, I am that I am. That's the one who you are too. And so it is. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.